Thanks for coming this morning. Just before we start, just a few little rules that we have here. I know most of you have already been here, but Adam will be muting everyone. And if you have any questions, please send them to Adam through the chat box, and he'll be asking them at the end. So today we have Alex. He's an account manager for MicroAge Whippy, helping businesses navigate IT and implement best practices so that you can be productive and safe and focus on your business. MicroAge is a full-service IT company focusing on managed services and cybersecurity, including procuring hardware and software. They have been in Durham for almost a year and Peterborough for 37 years. Take it away, Alex.
All right, well, thanks for the awesome introduction. Thanks everybody for coming today. So we're gonna get right into it. So today we're gonna talk about safeguarding your technology, and this is gonna apply whether you're working from home or getting ready to go back to the office. So the three topics are gonna be safeguards that everybody can employ, whether it's in your personal life or it's work related, best practices for collaborating and conferencing, and lastly, what does a cybersecurity solution look like? So before we get started, just want to talk about a recent news article from the RCMP. So fraudsters were posing as the Public Health Agency of Canada and sending out text messages and emails trying to scam credit card details, personal information and stuff like that through fraudulent means. Criminals and state actors are trying to exploit the global anxiety over the pandemic. So this isn't going to affect everybody. Like someone like me that works in this, I'll see that email and garbage it. But if unfortunately you have a family member or somebody suffering from it, it's probably going to play on your heartstrings a little bit more than someone that isn't really that affected. So it sounds like something simple, but they are getting information from people, so we got to be really careful. And you can see a nice little quote there from the head of the CSE, Scott Jones, there at the bottom, talking about tugging on heartstrings. And if there has been a recent death or a sickness in the family, it's going to play to you more than other people. So the same guy, Scott Jones, the Deputy Minister of Information Security Technology. This is a really important quote here, which is talking about Canadian resilience. So with how advanced a lot of these new threats are that exist in cyberspace, a lot of Canadians aren't even doing the bare minimum. Something as simple as doing regular software updates, changing your password often, even a few simple things to put yourself a step above everybody else. So if they go out there and try to get your information, you're just putting more safeguards in place to stop that from happening. And all this info I pulled from cyber.gc.ca, which is an awesome resource for people and business owners. So we're going to talk about some safeguards that everybody can employ today. Just remember to remain cautious and vigilant when reading your emails. I've even received a text message that was a little bit sketchy, talking about personal information. You may have tested positive, even though I've never gone to a hospital or tested. So obviously I threw that out, but hey, you never know. People living alone, older demographic, they might fall victim to stuff like that. So it's not only for us to know, but it's for us to share with our family and friends, people we care about, to keep them safe. Like I said in the previous slide, a lot of these attacks are launched using COVID-19 just because it's the easiest thing to play at your heartstrings right now. Avoid non-reputable websites, a sketchy looking link or ad. If it's sent to your email inbox by a sender you don't know, or maybe the email doesn't quite look right, it's probably better to just ask someone at your business or a friend or family in this field just to say, hey, is this something I should be clicking on or not? It's better to be safe than sorry. And another important thing is to make sure your data is backed up regularly. So we recommend 2 physical locations or devices and then the cloud. So an example would be like the hard drive in your laptop, an external hard drive, and then maybe like Office 365 to have your files backed up. This isn't just for cybersecurity, but God forbid there's a fire or a flood or something like that, and you lose the hard drive and the laptop, at least your data is backed up, especially if it's for your business and you need to access it in a timely manner. God forbid, there's a natural disaster or somebody takes over your system or something like that. So you always want to use strong passwords, and this goes for everything. This goes for, your Facebook, your Instagram, to your work software that you use, your work PC you use to log into. And the more and more passwords you create and the more complex and original these passwords are, the more difficult it is to remember them. And then you're just going to be resetting them all the time. So we actually recommend just using a password manager to store all this information and manage it for you. And one really good example, someone at my company is using right now, is called LastPass. So some things we don't want to do, the opposite of what I just said. So don't reuse passwords across personal and company accounts, especially because if they get into, let's say, a personal email address and they find out your work one, but you use the same password for everything you do, it's just kind of making it a lot easier for them to get access to your information. Don't store company or proprietary information on work or personal devices. Like me personally, I have a work computer with a work email on it. That's it. I don't have pictures of my family. I don't have personal contacts. I keep work, and home. And I always like to keep them separated just in case something happens. It's not going to be my fault at MicroAge if something happens and it's because I put, a USB stick with a malicious program on it without me knowing into a work computer to move a picture over or something like that. I'd rather just be safe than sorry. And never ever wait to report any sketchy or weird looking information. If an email doesn't look right, if a text doesn't look right, a website doesn't look right, if you have an internal IT person or you're working with an IT company, reach out to them. That's what they're there for. It might take a minute out of your day to shoot an email saying, hey, this is cool to open. And if it's not, we need to figure out how that got sent. And it's just another layer of security to add. So for collaboration and conferencing tools like what we're using right now, this is for everybody. This is just for people working, and I'm running a webinar right now for work, but some people just want to video chat with their family and friends because grandparents can't go visit the grandkids and stuff like that. We just did our first family video chat meeting that we've ever done. So a lot of people are doing it for the first time as well. So just make sure you're minimizing network traffic when you're trying to video chat. And there's multiple ways that you can do that, which I'll get into a little bit later. So make sure your password is set up for your router. This is a really simple one. If you bought internet probably in the last year, the guy that set up your internet for you probably walked you through the process. But if they didn't, Rogers, Bell, and Cogeco, on the back of the routers, they have a little sticker and it tells you what website to go to set up your password and get it done. Worst case, just call customer service, they'll do it for you. If you're doing the video chat from a laptop, have a direct connection if you can. I know that when I started working from home, because I'm a little farther away from my router, coworkers were mentioning, hey, you're choppy, I hear every third word, I have to repeat myself. A 10-minute meeting goes 25 minutes because of technical issues. So I just ran a simple network cable and it solved all my problems. So it's nice and fast. I make sure that I don't have anything open that's not supposed to be open, and I'm focusing on what I'm doing at the time. Like right now, there's nothing open on my desktop. I don't have an Xbox turned on in the house. I'm only doing what I'm focused on. And make sure you keep your devices up to date. So this is for phones, tablets, computers, anything. So when you get a software update prompt, let's say from Apple for your iPhone, it's going to give you some new features and stuff with every update, but there's a lot of security patches in those updates to keep your device safe. So when you see them, it's probably just better to do them right away than wait till later. Here we get into some things I've kind of already touched over. Close any open items on your desktop. This isn't just for a distraction open, but it's also if something's using the web in the background, it could strain your network. I never like to assume everybody has access to the fastest internet. A lot of people live in rural areas, so they really have to make the most of their conferencing. So these are some really cool techniques that you can do to, increase your speed and stuff, especially if it's for work. Hold off on online gaming on your network during working hours. You got kids at home playing Xbox or PlayStation or any gaming online. I know it's kind of unrealistic to say to them, hey, no gaming from 9 to 5. So if you can't swing that, if you have an hour conference call at one point during the day, tell them, hey, get off. I need to do something for work and I need to make sure I look professional while I'm doing it. And lastly, download, watch shows and movies offline. So Amazon Prime, Netflix are just a few. You can actually download it and save the file to your device, and you do it all within the Netflix app. And that way you're not actually using bandwidth or network usage while you're watching the video. So your kids can download a couple episodes of your show the night before and stream them during the day, so it's not going to affect, you know, anybody trying to get some work done during the day. So what does a cybersecurity solution look like? So the definition is there for anybody that is not sure, but basically, long story short, there is no one solution for everybody. Whether you're a one-person business, an owner-operator, or you have 20 staff, depending on the complexity of your business and what files and stuff you're working with, a cybersecurity solution is going to look different for everybody. So like here at MicroAge as an example, we'll start off as a security assessment just to kind of gauge where you're at. You know, you never want to buy something you don't need, and you don't want to have to pay for something you don't need for sure. So without having a good security sweep at the start, it's kind of difficult to tell where you can go from there. There's three main areas of focus in cybersecurity. There's prevention, monitoring, and recovery. So this isn't going to be too information intensive today. I'm going to keep it nice and light. We're just going to talk about the prevention aspect of it. So these are some aspects. I don't expect you to know everything you see here. Some of these words you might not even understand. That's totally okay. I didn't understand before I started here either. But these are a few things that you can put in place to safeguard yourself and your business. So email spam filtering is one, phishing security, managed dark web domain scanning, which is a really cool new one that we're doing. So that one can basically tell you, are my email or personal credentials available on the dark web? Knowing if your information is floating around on the dark web is kind of your first tell if you might possibly be more apt to getting an attack against your business. So just knowing your information's out there, there's probably a higher chance it can happen. And it's as easy as saying, hey, this email address ending in this has been compromised. Why don't you go change your password just to be safe? And, you know, manage patches and updates. This goes back to software updates for your devices and the programs you use. But again, I don't want to get too heavy into this one. So for common threats, hacking and malware are definitely top of the list. This could be putting malicious software on your computer, and they like to exploit the human or technological vulnerabilities. We'll stick to the human stuff today. So that's like, you know, COVID-19 email, your family member's sick, or you tested positive, please respond with this information, or else. And malware is the actual program that gets put on your computer. So you get an email, it's got a blue hyperlink, you click it, nothing happens. If it was malware, it could be installing itself on your system without you even knowing. And what happens is if you got an employee network of 20 people, one person clicks it, you give access to that device is networked with the other 19 employees, then that's going to be their gateway in, and then they're going to spread from there. So the faster you're able to detect that breach, the faster you're going to be able to remediate the problem and get back to business as usual. So another common threat, farming, phishing, spoofing, and ransomware. So it's kind of like malware where they're gonna, you know, send an email or something like that and get you to click on something. But once they have access to your computer, they can, you know, take files from you and say, hey, you want your files back? You want your accounting statements back? Well, you're gonna pay this amount of money. And if you don't pay this amount of money, I'm going to leak it to your competitors, or I'm gonna display it all online for everyone to see, and stuff like that. And we'll talk a little bit more in a bit about how that can affect you and affect your business. So this is probably the most important question of this webinar is, why does somebody want to do this to me? Why do you guys even care about this stuff? They really don't care that it's you. Most of the time it's not even personal. A lot of these bad players out there that are trying to steal information and ransomware you, they're sending this out to literally millions of people. And think of it as like knocking on a bunch of doors, seeing what's unlocked. If somebody clicks and opens the email, lets them in, passwords are easy for them to get, and they're shared passwords throughout the whole company, they're going to be able to move through your data pretty quick. So one of the main reasons people want to do it to you, though, is financial gain. So stealing accounting statements, shutting your systems down so your sales guys can't work, HR information, which there could be litigation if certain personal information about an employee gets leaked, if you didn't have, you know, a proper solution in place at the start. Email services, commercial applications, maybe you have proprietary software you use for work, and maybe you wouldn't want your competitors to know what you're using or how it works. So they may use that to tug at your heartstrings to kind of get you to pay up. And the last reason is to make a social or a political point. Maybe they don't like your business. Maybe they don't like what you sell. Maybe they don't agree with how you do business. It's nothing to do with you. It's just how somebody views your business and whether they just want to make you hurt just to make you hurt. This isn't just a scare tactic. I'm not trying to spook anybody here. I'm just trying to shed some light on why people do this kind of stuff. So business and personal risks. I mentioned a bunch of these already, but we'll go through them quickly. So productivity losses, they slow your systems or shut them down. You can't work. You can't work, you can't sell. You can't sell, you can't make money. You can't access accounting statements. You can't bill customers. It's full circle. And data corruption. Maybe they just steal your data and don't give it back, or it's corrupted to the point where you can't use it anymore. This is when the backups is really important. Making sure you have it on the device you're using, a secondary device like a hard drive, like an external on your desk, and the cloud is a great way to be covered, you know, full circle. Tarnish the image of your brand. There may, depending on the business you're in, be liability if confidential customer information is exposed, like if you're in the healthcare industry or something like that. There's certain regulations for that line of work that you have to follow, and if you're not doing the bare minimum, you could be liable, which again is the responsibility to make the best effort to keep your data safe. And the cost of your business. So cost of downtime, you're still paying your workers and they basically can't do anything because business is shut down. And indirect is your reputation. So it's not just a customer of yours finding out, hey, you leaked my data, I don't like you anymore, I don't want to do business with you. That's bad, obviously, that's lost money right off the top. But down the line, you know, bad news travels fast. I'm gonna go tell 10 people that, hey, this company, don't deal with them because their data got leaked. Even though after, you know, God forbid, a cyber attack happens, you put a system in place afterwards, it's going to be difficult if you had a business for 10, 20 years building that reputation up and trust, getting trust in the community, and it all getting tarnished and trying to rebuild it again. It's a lot of work, it's time consuming, and you could lose some customers in the meantime, which nobody wants. So layering in prevention is the best defense. We have things like dark web scanning we can do, software detection, patch management and best practices, human firewall, and backup and data recovery. So for the purposes of what we're doing here today, folks, we're just going to worry about the human firewall aspect. So Kaspersky, an ID agent, said that 90% of security breaches are inadvertent, unintentional, and caused by human error. A lot of these just open up a bad link. Letting them onto your network, and then they spread to other aspects of your business. And before you know what's happening, they could have full control of your network, or enough control that you may want to pay to get back, you know, access to your stuff. So you just want to make your people act like a firewall for you. These are your employees. So you want to make them aware of these risks. You want to educate them on stuff to look for in a suspicious email. You want to make sure you know the sender. You want to make sure that the content looks legit. And if it doesn't, then you want to contact your IT person, double check everything before you open it, especially dealing with, you know, like accounting and financial statements and stuff. And you can do this by testing your staff. So you could have your IT person send out an email that you've trained your staff not to click. And then if anybody clicks on it and opens it, it's going to flag it back to your IT guy and say, hey, that guy might need a little bit more training because I taught him not to open it. But it's better to make that part of your onboarding process. So day one, you hire a new employee. If you're working in a field like mine or any kind of technology and they're provided a work computer, from day one, you explain to them and make them go through the training on how to look for a suspicious email, and just retrain your staff, you know, 1 or 2 times a year with one of these tests, just to make sure. It's not to get anybody in trouble here. It's just to make sure that everybody is consistently using best practices, because you want everybody to be safe and you want your data to be safe as well, even if it's not work, even if it's personal data. you don't want that getting out to the wrong people and them sharing it with others. Patch management is pretty straightforward. If a security update or a patch comes out, it's best to do it right away. How you do that, I'm not really sure. If I don't know anything about your business, if you have an IT person, maybe they do them all at the same time, or if you have an IT company, they may give you a phone call and say, hey, there's a new patch out. We're going to have to install that at some point today or tomorrow. When's the time you're not busy for us to get that done? And best practices. So this comes to your passwords, like I said at the beginning. Make sure they're all different, make sure they're unique. If it's too difficult, you forget them all the time. I reset a password probably once a month. My boss can attest to that. So just make them unique. Use a password manager like LastPass if you're not sure how to keep everything organized, and require that they're changed frequently or regularly. So probably once a month or every 2 months, just change them all. It takes a couple minutes. It's just an extra layer to keep you safe. Don't allow unsecured remote access. So if you're a business that's used to always working in an office, like an accounting department, and you're used to going to work Monday to Friday every day, you drive to the office, and there's one server in the office and everybody shares the data off that. Well, now because of COVID, we're all at home. So we still need to access that server to, tend to our customers, but how can we do that safely? Multi-factor authentication is probably the best way. For example, me with my work computer, wake up in the morning, go make myself a coffee, log into my PC with my computer password. After I log in through that, I have a two-step verification for my iPhone. I basically hold up my camera to the computer screen. It takes a picture of a QR code, and it gives me a unique string of numbers. I type those in just to be able to get into my computer. And again, to some people that might sound like a little mission impossible-y, but it's not. It takes a couple seconds, and again, it's all to keep your stuff safe. How MicroAge can help. Well, we're a full-service IT and cyber solution company, so there's many things we can do to help you, but before we get too ahead of ourselves, we'd like to start with a security evaluation. We want to know where you stand today, to know where any threats may be posed, and what are our best options for keeping you, your people, and your data safe. Dark web monitoring is also kind of tying into a security evaluation a little bit. It's not as in-depth, but it lets us know if any of your email or personal credentials are out there in cyberspace on the dark web, because that's kind of a tell sign of, is there a possibility that an attack may be coming? And if we run a dark web scan and you got a bunch of information everywhere around the internet, it might be. So that's when we recommend you don't change all your passwords. But it's not good to just do one time. You kind of need dark web scanning to happen periodically, like once a month, because just because your credentials aren't leaked today, they may be leaked tomorrow. Yeah, so what are the next steps? What are the takeaways of why you joined my webinar? Change all your passwords, use different ones for different apps, websites, and emails. So when I was making this webinar, I was talking to one of my bosses about it, and he let me know a really easy thing to do is when you buy stuff online, like let's say Amazon or an online clothing store, or you're buying video games, create an email just to use to sign up for stuff, so that if it gets compromised, there's nothing personal on the email at all. They don't have access to your personal contacts. They don't have pictures of your family. They don't have pictures of vacations, your contact list, all that kind of stuff. So that's one. Two is you want to embrace the human firewall, which is basically empowering your employees to look for telltale signs of something that just maybe doesn't look right, like a sketchy email or a link or something like that. And the third one is take a look at government websites for updates. So I personally use cyber.gc.ca. It'll tell you all things moving and shaking in cybersecurity. Were there any new attacks this month? Is there, any new stuff out in the industry that's pertinent to individuals or businesses as well? So that concludes it. Pretty high level, but just a lot of quick information, and this is just meant to invoke everybody to ask questions and maybe think about, where do I stand today and what can I do to be safe while I'm working from home during COVID, and also how can I stay safe when we all return back to the office. So that concludes it.
Perfect. Thanks, Alex. That was great. And I definitely have a bunch of questions here. So just a reminder, sorry, to everyone that if you do have any questions, please just type them into the chat there, and I'll do my best to get to all of them. So Alex, just to start us off, so I know you speak to a ton of businesses. So what are you hearing from them? So what's the most common thing that businesses are doing wrong, and how can they fix it?
That's good. One of them would probably be a lot of businesses never prepared to work from home. So a lot of people were just using desktops that were all hired to work in the office. And as everybody worked from home, some of the smaller businesses got people to use a personal computer to conduct business while they're waiting to go back to the office. So with stuff like that, they might not be accessing their server. They don't have enough security behind it, or any security. They might not even have any antivirus on personal Mac and PC, and they're accessing work stuff. So the biggest thing I would say is just make sure your devices are secured. Make sure you have some kind of layer of defense stopping the bad guys from trying to get your information.
Perfect. So if you have been compromised, what do you do? So an example of this is, I know someone in our office, periodically they get things sent from their email or using their name, and it's obviously someone phishing. So what do you do?
The biggest thing would be, I would probably run a dark web scan with them. So if this is coming from like one of your staff members' email addresses specifically, like the same person, probably their credentials have been leaked somewhere. So I could look up the domain of the email and figure out, is anybody have this information online? Has the password been leaked? Are there any other credentials floating out there? And step one is change all their passwords. So if one of their emails been compromised, obviously change that one. Change any personal ones. Do they ever log into, Facebook on a work computer? Not really supposed to, but a lot of people still do it. I'm not ripping on anybody here for it. But that's another password that's now living on a work computer. So I would say to change all their passwords immediately is step one. And if the problem persists, then there's more investigative research that would have to be done.
So then are you saying by doing that, you would know technically if your information is on the dark web?
Yeah, so basically the piece of software we use lets me know if your information has been compromised, and the software will give me as much information as it possibly can about how the breach happened. So I actually ran myself personally. I used my personal email when we first got the software to kind of test it out and learn how to use it. And I had been hit. And I had been hit by a fitness app on my phone. So it wasn't anything to do with work. I logged into that fitness app maybe 2-3 times ever, and I used a unique password. So how that information or data got leaked, I have no idea. But you bet your bottom dollar when I saw that, I changed the password. Yeah.
So it's interesting you talk about passwords. So I think a lot of people are probably in the same boat as myself, where you end up with so many spots where your email is and you need a password. And I mean, I'm probably a victim to using the same one way too many times. So when you are using a secure one, a good one, you're using, I think it was LastPass you recommended. How do you keep track of all these passwords though? And I think that's why everyone is only using one password. So what would you recommend in that to help with that?
Well, LastPass just organizes everything for all your devices and all your logins, and it keeps it all in order for you. And this isn't necessarily LastPass just for work stuff, but it could also store for, personal as well. So logins for everything on your phone. I mean, just think about an iPhone for an example. If you have Instagram, if you have Facebook, if you have Twitter, you have a fitness app, you have Snapchat, there's a whole bunch of different apps you can get now that all require a login and a password. So LastPass just categorizes all of them for you. So you just know where to go. You can click it and it will tell you what the password is for that specific thing. It is an extra step to have to go and do it. But if you have a ton of passwords and you're worried about keeping your data safe, what's an extra minute of your day looking at the password than risking using the same one across all your devices? So risk and reward there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You talked about computer software. for companies and for computers. And so is there one that you'd recommend? Like I know I was told a long time ago that if your computer comes with Norton, delete it right away. And I think I'm using Windows Defender, but is there anything else that you would recommend for businesses to use just kind of at a very high level just to kind of provide some basic security?
Yeah, ours is called Managed EDR, and it's a managed antivirus as opposed to a static one, like let's say like Norton, Kaspersky. There's a whole bunch out there, right? McAfee. And what happens is, so like there's thousands of new types of attacks, malware and stuff that comes out every day. And those kinds of the freebies or, hey, it came free with your computer for a year, they only get updates, once a month, once every 3 months, once every 6 months. But there's thousands of new stuff coming out every day, where when you have a managed one like the one MicroAge has, it's constantly updating itself to keep you safe. Does it cost more than $14.99 a year? Yes. But at the same time, if you're protecting company information, what's that worth to keep safe, right? Mm-hmm. So there's got to be, you don't want to overdo it and get something like a mega solution that's way bigger than you need, that costs way too much. That's why we always start off with a security assessment to see, what are you using right now? What's in place? Is it working? Have you ever had a breach? Do we need to get you on something else? So we would definitely need more information. Like that would be me talking one-on-one with a potential client. But that's something we would just have to discuss together.
Perfect. So just a reminder to everyone that if you do have any questions, just put them in the chat there. So Alex, my last question is, so with COVID and people working from home, one thing I'm hearing a lot is that post-COVID, there's going to be a shift where a lot more people are working from home. So where do you see cybersecurity going and the potential for maybe new risks as more people are working from home?
Email phishing is going to be at its peak anyways, just because people still fall victim to attack. Even when I watch news stories about email phishing scams and stuff like on CBC or on CNN or any major news network, in 2020, we're at the point where email's used a lot, so it's an easy way to go after people. Couple that with everybody working from home and couple that with you can't really go many places and you're going to be working from home and people may have a personal and work email on the same computer. My biggest advice for people while you're working from home during COVID, even when you go back to the office, keep your work and personal life separate. If you have a personal email, leave it on your iPhone with a unique password. And your work email should be the only thing on a work computer. Trust me when I say keep them separate. You start mixing stuff like this and you use the same password, you're going to open yourself up to vulnerabilities, which is what we don't want.
Perfect. Sorry, Alex. I think I'm taking so many notes. I'm learning so much. Okay. So that's kind of all I've got for questions. So how can people get a hold of you, Alex? And is there kind of any other last comments you have just to kind of wrap us up?
Yeah, for sure. So to wrap everything up today, obviously I just want to say thank you for everybody that joined. I love doing webinars and hopefully I'll be able to do more. So I hope you all enjoyed it and it wasn't too, into the details and I kept it as brief as I could. But as a thank you for joining today, we're going to be running complimentary dark web scans. So this could be for your work, like your work emails and stuff to see if your credentials are floating out there. It's a really good starting point just to see how your current security solution is doing. And it just gives you a really good insight that if your data is floating around, what is it, where is it, and what do I do? So I just put my email there at the bottom. And because we're talking about a business's security, some people may not have felt comfortable today asking a question. Reach out to me. It's completely confidential. It's going to be between you and me, and that's it. So don't be shy. If you have a question, there's no stupid questions. I'm happy to help people out as much as I can. And yeah.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Alex, again for joining us today. Like I said, I learned an absolute ton. So I'm sure some of our guests definitely had some takeaways to bring back to their businesses. So yeah, again, thanks a lot for joining us today. And just a reminder to everybody that if you are looking for more webinars that we're hosting, you can go to cbot.ca. Okay, thanks everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Adam.